Well, hello and welcome to Old People This Week. My name is Jeff, and that brutal Bronco buster from Bozeman, that's Mike. How the hell are you, Mike?
Good, man. How are you, Jeff?
Good. We are your hosts. Old People This Week is a podcast for people who are 60 and over, people who are smart, active, and feisty. Every Thursday, we bring you the stories you need to know going into the weekend. And they're not going to be stories about plaque psoriasis or Alzheimer's, although, unless Mike and I get Alzheimer's, and then we might talk about it. But it's going to be about stories that are just cool, interesting, and it'll make you sound smart when you're on the golf course, at the gym, playing dominoes, or of course, for Mike and I, at happy hour.
Happy hour. Shaken, not stirred, no fruit because it takes up space otherwise occupied by gin.
Well put. We need you to subscribe. If you subscribe, Mike will take you to a karaoke bar and he'll sing you the entire soundtrack from Oklahoma.
Only if you pay me $1,000 in cash and provide free transportation.
No, you just have a few of those martinis you were just describing. You'll get up there and be singing like you were on Broadway stage.
I have a voice best adapted to cooling soup, by the way, which I have told you before.
Cooling soup. I still don't get that, by the way. That's why I didn't bring it up before, but I assume it's an insult, so we won't go any further than that.
No, it's about our grandparents. They used to do what's called saucer and blow. And you'd put some soup in your saucer and you'd blow on it to cool it. And then you'd put it back in the cup and eat it.
You were born in the 1800s. I'll prove it right here. Please email us with your questions, comments. Mike and I will tell you anything and everything you need to know because we know everything. Between us, we have 140 years of life experience. I have 40 or 50.
Yeah.
The other 90 are over there.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I was gonna ask you what the equation was there.
with that saucer blowing, that shows you. We got one comment this week, by the way, from a listener or viewer by the name of Linda, and she saw us do our hopefully last piece on Governor Kristi Noem, the puppy killer, who we did a story about how PETA, the anti-fur pro-animal group, has on their website they're selling a Kristi Noem puppy killer Halloween costume that's kind of funny looking with horns coming out of the camo hat and a little puppy clinging to it, and she's holding a shotgun. But this listener, Linda, her comment was simply, "I love PETA," and who doesn't love PETA? It's the reason that Mike has stopped wearing fur coats to this podcast.
That's right. I used to wear an ankle-length beaver coat to New York in the wintertime when I was in the apparel business. True story.
To find a picture of that, we'll put
I
that
will.
picture up.
I will. You'll be pleasantly surprised.
Boy, I don't think so. Please check out our Substack, 52task.substack.com. This past week, I apologize. It was basically a rant I did on Harrison Butker's speech that he made at Benedictine College.
Yeah, you got all revved up over that.
Well, your mother was a professional. My mother worked her ass off from the time she was got out of college in her age, which about one out of every 100 women went to college.
Yeah.
She taught for 35 years. My sister taught. My wife is a feminist, and my daughter is. And so it did kind of rile me up. And this guy's saying that the only choices for women when they leave college, or the right choice for them, is to stay home and have babies. And it's just not only, it bugs me for several reasons, because he makes 7 figures a year and he can have his wife stay home. And some women don't have the choice. They can't just stay home and have, they have to work.
Yeah.
So he's pontificating. But over the course of the week, I've also thought to myself, all right, he has an opinion. I just think the arena in which he made that opinion was wrong. At a college, by the way, where women are graduating, coming across stage to get their diplomas, and he's telling them that they have no future other than or shouldn't have any other future other than to be mom. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
well,
got
he
that.
seemed to rule out the option, by the way, of a woman being successful in a career and also being able to successfully raise children. I mean,
Yeah,
my
I mean, it
mom,
was just
yeah,
yeah,
my mom in good case, and yours
yeah,
too. You know,
yeah,
I mean, we
yeah,
we turned out fairly normal.
yeah. It just was an ill-timed thing. So I don't. I mean, again, he has a right to his opinion, but I just think the venue and the timing was just poorly done.
Yeah.
Please check us out on Spotify. The benefit of Spotify is you don't have to look at Mike or my face every week. You can just listen to our golden voices.
Although, why wouldn't you want to? We're on opposite ends of the chin scale. You just have that cord, whatever that is, and I have chins in reserve.
I've lost my Adam's apple, and instead I got these cords. On the warm and fuzzy side of the news, Joan Vassos is getting another shot at love.
I predicted that, remember? I said she was the
Yes.
likely candidate, and they and they did it correctly this time.
Yeah, this is Mike's referring to the Joan Vassos was on the first Golden Bachelor series. She left after 3 episodes because her daughter had a medical emergency. I read that
Yeah.
the daughter had a particularly tough cesarean birth, and Joan felt that she should be there with her, so she left the show. She also thought she had a chance, that she had a real vibe with Gary, but it was not to happen. But they've chosen her to be the inaugural Golden Bachelorette. So this fall, you and I, Mike, will be once more enraptured by, in this case, Joan's attempt to find love.
Yeah. I'm glad she dodged a bullet with Gary or Jerry. That that wasn't going to work out in any
No,
case.
no, she'd be the one dumped.
Yeah. By the way,
And Teresa.
did you see the development on the Bachelor, where the likely candidate for to become the next Bachelorette was the gal, I think her name was Maria, and she was great. She was really just take no prisoners, no bullshit, straight ahead, really great. And apparently they offered it to her, and she turned it down. Um, and they offered it to another one of the cast members, and they also turned it down. So the gal who's now the new Bachelorette apparently was number third choice.
The bloom is off the rose.
Yeah,
And then there's not the so warm and fuzzy news. Sean Combs, P. Diddy. I don't know if you saw this video
oh,
of
do you
him.
believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Jesus. The only thing more sickening is that pathetic apology that was airing yesterday on media. I just something terrible ought to happen to him, and he go away for good.
Well, if I was his manager, his agent, or his advisor, I'd just say, Sean, get in a cab, because I think you live in New York City, and drive straight out to Rikers Island and check yourself in, because
Yeah,
yeah, you're in some deep, deep trouble. I mean, he spent the last few months basically pushing back and calling it fake news,
yeah,
all these reports about his treatment of women and human trafficking, by the way.
yeah.
And
What a guy.
then this video came out, and it's
It's
terrible,
sickening. It's sickening.
sickening. He's out there with that stupid towel wrapped around him, kicking at her and everything, and it's just
Uh,
that. If I was him, I wouldn't make any apology. I wouldn't do anything. I would just, stay low and wait for your federal indictments.
yeah, because they are coming.
They are coming. There's going to be a lot of them. I heard every law enforcement agency in this country is investigating him.
Yeah.
We got a couple questions. As you know, we love to get questions because we'll answer, we'll talk about anything. We had said last week that we didn't understand why Snoop Dogg was chosen to be on American Idol next season, because why? He's a rapper. What's he going to bring to the show? And this
I
person
still
wrote
don't.
to us.
I still don't understand.
Well, this person wrote to us and said, I think he'll be great even if he doesn't sing. He knows a good singer when he hears one, and he knows the music business. So he may.
How do we know he knows a good singer when he hears one?
Well, that's what this viewer is. We have to respect the comments from our viewers. So this person thinks so, so why not?
Yeah.
Speaking of Idol, so on Sunday, my wife and I decided to drive over to a place near us called, sort of humorously, Jackalopes, which is like a bar in a neighboring city called Indio. And as we pull up into there at about 4:45, following our old happy hour rules here, we pull into the parking lot, and there's a sign that says American Idol viewing party. And there's literally a line, not just a line of cars, a line of people all stretching all the way out to the highway.
Yeah.
And I remembered that person who was the finalist, what's her name?
Abi
Abi
Carter.
Carter.
Yeah.
She's from around there. And so the entire city or town of Indio had showed
India.
up at Jackalopes to watch the finals.
Yeah. That was
And she
great.
won.
Yeah.
She
Did you
won.
watch the show?
I didn't see it. How was
It
it?
it was terrific. She really is. I mean, she's deserving of winning the show, but she is a really special person. Um, Seemed to be genuinely moved and surprised, and it's a good win uh, all the way around.
What genres does she perform in? Pop?
Yeah, just kind of contemporary. I mean, she sang everything from a Billie Eilish song to um, uh, things from Disney. I mean, ran the gamut and just killed everything. Just
Wow.
absolutely knocked it out of the park.
Well, that's great. Congratulations to her. I hope she makes $1 billion and becomes the next Taylor Swift. Yeah, everything I've heard about her says she deserves it.
Yeah, she's pretty sweet. By the way, do you know what a jackalope is? It's a rabbit
That'd
with
be,
antelope horns.
that's it.
You'll see them hanging over every bar in Wyoming and Montana. I'm going to get you up there one of these days.
Up in Montana. Maybe, maybe. I heard they got mosquitoes as big as horses up there.
No, no, no. That's Alaska and Canada.
Well, Montana's practically in Canada.
No, but it's not. That's the beauty of it.
Okay. So the second question we got was, if you're a life coach, because I say every show that we're the life coaches because we're so smart, then answer this question. I went to happy hour last week and asked for a happy hour gin martini. The bartender asked if I wanted the well gin. I didn't know what she meant, but I said yes. What is well gin? Well, I will tell you.
Yeah.
There are 3 levels of alcohol generally sold at a bar. The top shelf liquors are the highest priced ones. They're the better liquors. Then come the CALL liquors, and then then the well liquors, which are those bottles that they keep hidden under the bar or in somewhere where they're not publicly displayed because no one, you don't recognize the names of them. So, for example, Mike and I drink gin, and at the top of the level, at least in my world, is Hendrix that can run up to, depending on where you buy it, of course, but can be $40 a bottle. And then there's Bombay that can be up in the 30s, and then Tanqueray in the 20s, and Seagram's in the teens, all the way down to what's called Skol gin, SKOL, which I saw for sale online for $4.21 a liter.
It's antifreeze.
Yeah. If you don't drink it, you can use it to start your charcoal fire, or just pour it in your gas tank if your car is running low.
Yeah. Paint remover or antifreeze. It's a perfect substitute.
Yeah, you go on the American Medical Association website, and it says that if you drink it, your fingernails will fall off. In college, I would buy this stuff called Cold Bear wine that was Cold Bear wine that was, like a buck a bottle, and you take the first sip and your whole body would shake and cringe. It was a step below Boone's Farm, and Boone's Farm was,
Yeah,
not good for
pretty
you.
bad. I remember what Annie Green Springs, and yeah, terrible.
Well, yeah, that's when you drank stuff that was even cheaper than well gin.
Oh yeah, yes.
Where, where well liquor was a step up, and you're
No,
the
somebody hand
bottom.
you a bottle. They hand you a bottle of something, and they just called it clear.
Yeah. Well, that was
What a,
another thing. They had that clear alcohol that you could buy. There was a restaurant a Mexican place there when I was young and working, where they would make margaritas out with clear.
yeah,
And I'm telling you, people would stagger out of that bar. This was in the 80s. And people would stagger out of there just dead drunk. I think the cops would just park a patrol car nearby just to buff up how many
their numbers.
DUIs, yeah, they could get in a night. So the other thing, you sent me this article, and I had actually already read it as well because it's so stunningly stupid and pissed me off, from the New York Times. And the headline of the article was "Young and Fragrant: Teen Boys Pursuing Signature Scents."
Yeah, what the hell?
Well, this was it's inspired by TikTok tips. The article, the first sentence of the article was, "On a recent trip to Sephora."
Yeah, on every boy's shopping list for the weekend.
This 11-year-old kid named Lincoln Rivera asked his mother to buy him a $125 atomizer of Yves Saint Laurent Eau de Parfum, spelled Parfum, by the way, not perfume like that.
Of course it is.
So Lincoln asked his mom, "Hey, mom, there's an atomizer over there. Who knows what an atomizer was? This kid knows, but there's a bottle of perfume. Would you get it for me?"
An atomizer is a bottle with that little squeeze bulb on the top, and it makes a very fine mist.
Oh, brother.
If the Chinese government is looking for a way to subvert our society and destroy us, you'd think there could be a more creative approach than encouraging teenage boys to buy perfume.
Yeah, the Chinese are
Jesus
sitting there
Christ.
thinking, how can we keep these kids from joining the U.S. Army? Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Let's get them hooked on perfume. So this next kid, his name is Luke Benson. He's 14-year-old, lives in Orlando. He said that the scent of Les Mail by Jean-Paul Gaultier has a, quote, really good honey note.
Uh-huh.
And there's this kid from Chicago talking about his cologne collection, and he called the $300 bottle of Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, which I think is French for vanilla, the way it looks, his signature scent. So this kid has a signature scent.
Wonderful.
And, it happens to be a $300 bottle of parfum. Now, mind you, when I'm in high school, these kids are even younger. They're like preteens.
Yeah.
But in high school, when I had a date coming up, I had my go-to was either Brute, High Karate, or I borrowed some of my old man's Old Spice. High Karate was what, if you smell it now, your nose would wrinkle up and you might
Yeah.
faint. It's not, but in those days we thought that was, oh man, we're going to smell sexy here and put some High Karate on. I imagine there are women who probably are still horrified, but if they smell High Karate, they start turning and running away from you. They're so traumatized by that. All right. Now, here's a story you'll like because I don't believe it, but it's interesting. The headline was, "I am one of 100 people in the world who can remember the day that I was born." So this Canadian woman, she's 18. She's from Ottawa, Canada, and she's the youngest known person with a condition that gives her an incredible photographic-like memory. According to her, her brain is organized like a calendar, and she has the ability to replay, rewind, or fast forward any significant experience or event, including those that she had as a baby.
Yeah, there was a feature on 60 Minutes a couple of years ago about people like this, and they interviewed somebody and ran this test on them, and it was incredible.
I don't know if I'd like to have a memory like that. I remember my mom chasing me around with her paddle when she was pissed at me.
Get the ruler, the stick
It
off
was
the top of the refrigerator.
It was called the stick, and it sat
The
on top
stick.
of the refrigerator. And if she looked, we did something wrong, my brother or I, and she just would go get the stick.
Stick.
And instead of going to get the stick, my brother and I would run outside like our pants were on fire. We'd run as far away as we could. But I don't want to remember. There's a lot that you don't want to remember. I mean, you deliberately don't want to remember that you put it someplace, lock it up, and you don't want to recall things. It's not like every memory is all roses and
Yeah, no, there's
nice.
probably a reason the things you cling to are the good memories or the pivotal memories. I mean, if you have this condition, it sounds like you don't have a choice. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of things are probably best left not remembered.
After this podcast is over, I don't want to remember that I was talking about teenage boys using perfume, $300 bottles of perfume.
Yeah.
All right, on to our weekly look at relationships. Last week we were ripping on a app called Notion that will help you organize your personal life because it sounds so apersonal. But this headline was, "Honey, I love you. Did you see my Slack about it?"
It just seems like such a desperate way to avoid actually talking to someone.
I read a quote by this guy named Oliver Berkman, who's a time management specialist, and he was reacting to this same story that we are talking about. And he said, there is a phenomenon whereby the more you try to manage your life, the more you risk squeezing the vibrancy out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it's my weekly old guy rant. I still put great stock in getting outside, leaving the house, leaving the room, leaving the office, taking your partner's hand, walking to dinner, walking to lunch, or just taking a walk, doing something that has to do with the human experience instead of the human machine experience.
Well, in your day, you could go out into the back 40 and talk to a steer.
Oh yeah. No, I ride around for days singing to the cattle. And they quite enjoyed it, I will tell you.
Yeah, you don't need an app for that. Go out, saddle up, go out on the range, start a fire, sing to the steers. And then you sent me this article that I thought was interesting about the couples who have separate bedrooms say it helps their relationship. And it was specifically about this husband and wife who been married for 19 years. The husband had a bad cold, so he slept in another room. And he said it was great. They slept like babies. By the way, babies don't sleep like babies. They sleep horribly. They roll around, they scream, and they have all kind of issues. So, but people always say, "Oh, I slept like a baby."
Yeah, good. That's an oxymoron if I ever encountered one.
So anyways, this guy said his restlessness didn't keep his wife up at night, and her habit of scrolling through her phone didn't keep him awake, and so they looked at that as being a successful way to keep their marriage together, and so they sleep apart. A few years ago, like 5 years ago, in 2019, I had my knee operated on, replaced, and at that time I couldn't climb stairs for some time, so I ended up sleeping in another room. And you know what? It is not a bad thing. Your wife's not poking you or pissed off at you when you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom.
Apparently, I go through stages where I snore a lot, and I'll get a sharp elbow a couple times, and at that point, I'll I'll get up and go to the guest room, and I sleep very fitfully.
I just know that when I slept apart and had my own bed, I was very happy, very restful for both myself and my wife. We've talked a lot about Taylor Swift over the past few episodes. Writers, pundits, people who write about the music industry are trying to find a way where to put her in the pantheon of gods since the beginning of recorded music. You know, where does she fit in with her success vis-a-vis Bing Crosby or the Beatles or the Stones or Mariah Carey or Beyonce? And when you go by the numbers, it's pretty incredible. The Tortured Poets Department sold 2.6 million copies in its opening week. It earned Swift her 8th Billboard #1 album since 2020. That's less than 4 years ago.
Yeah.
She won the Grammy for Best Album of the Year for the 4th time, breaking the tie that she had with Sinatra, Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon. And in 2023, one of every 78 songs streamed in the United States was by her. So this whole thing that I read was trying to compare her to the Beatles. And they were trying to find an apples to apples way to do that, and there really isn't. For example, the Beatles achieved their success all in under 10 years. They had 20 #1 songs, which is the most ever.
Yeah.
But they did that all before 1965. And Taylor Swift is already 15 years into her career, and it will probably go another 30. All I could say is she's incredible, she's great, and she's going to end up with more streams, more #1 hit, more #1 albums, more everything than anyone else ever.
And good for her. It's nice to see that level of success coupled with what appears to be a pretty normal life.
I'd go to a Taylor Swift concert, I think.
Yeah, I would too. I think it'd be great to just see it and experience it. And you'd love all those little beaded bracelets. I know you collect those. So
I'd sit there in the back with the girls and my bracelets and sing all the songs along with her. President Biden has announced support for a DOJ measure to reclassify marijuana. Back when I was in college in the 70s, they try to sell us dime bags. The dime referring to the cost, which was not a dime, but it was $10. But it might as well have been a dime because that's how much you get. Very little marijuana in those bags. It was all seeds, and you really wouldn't get high. And then I stopped. After college, I went off and started my career, and later on got married, and then kids. So all marijuana was not a part of my life until about 20 years ago. 22 years ago or so, my wife graduated got her master's degree, and there was a party. We were going to have a cookout at our house, and she invited a bunch of her classmates who were people who were a lot younger and single and had a different lifestyle than we did. But they came over to our house and they brought marijuana with them and started passing around a joint. And, I partook, and modern marijuana, which I found, even though this was 20 odd years ago, modern marijuana compared to what I had in the 70s, it is way stronger. So all of a sudden, I'm so high at my house that I don't know what I'm doing, where I am, or what I'm supposed to be doing. And our kids were there, and they came in and asked me to go on the computer and pull up the Disney website, which in those days you could go on the Disney website and there would be games on there and kids could do all kind of all kind of activities. I sat down in front of the computer, which was in our the house, small house we had then in the dining room area, and all I had to do was type out www.disney.com and cut to like 45 minutes later, I still couldn't type that out. I was so messed up. And finally, my wife came in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to, well, I was in tears. I'm trying to get the Disney Channel up here, Disney website up." She goes, "Get out of the way, whatever." So I left, and then I went to the kids' room where they had a little TV, and I lay down on the floor with them and watched Teletubbies.
You were mesmerized.
I was mesmerized by Teletubbies. I was so high. Oh man, I was so high. I missed the rest of the party. Slept through, basically got up the next day and was like, "What happened?"
I hope you didn't have something on the barbecue grill.
Somebody else had to take over the grilling. I couldn't grill. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't function. I was so high. Now, we live in a state where it's legal to have marijuana, recreational marijuana. So I've gone over and bought, I paid $25 or something like that for a little vial that had 5 joints in there. I've had it now for about 3-4 years, and I've only gotten through like 1 joint, because when I have had the chance or the desire or the opportunity to smoke it, it's just, again, it's too strong and I get too paranoid, and it's just, the whole experience sucks.
So I had one experience with marijuana. This is one of those cases where I can remember this, but it was back in college, and at the time I was living in a dorm with the football team, and they were giant guys, and a couple of them were always smoking dope, and I had never smoked, coming off a ranch in the middle of nowhere and into the big city and the college, and so they convinced me to try it one afternoon. And honest to God, I couldn't hit my ass with a hat. I mean, it was terrible.
Maybe you and I should go out and get high. Just see what happens. How much trouble we can get into.
No, man.
All right, for our final story, as usual, it involves someone from the great state of Florida. In this case, a woman. The story attracted my attention for what will be obvious reasons. A Naples, Florida woman is under arrest for making herself at home, which would normally be fine, of course, except that the home that she made herself comfortable in wasn't hers. So an older woman from Naples reported that an unknown suspect had unlawfully entered her residence while she was inside. And this person, who was later identified as Natalie Lynn Slavek, entered the home without permission. Then she went up and hugged the older 79-year-old woman, and Slaver made herself at home by sitting on a chair in the living room, resting on a bed for several minutes, then jumped in the pool, all before leaving the premises.
I hope she had a bathing suit with her.
Well, they eventually got her, and it says she's was currently on state probation for a 2020 offense of resisting an officer with violence. And she didn't know the residence of the home she unlawfully entered, and as a result, she was placed under arrest for trespassing in an occupied structure. This reminded me of a story when I was at E! And I was doing this show called True Hollywood Story that I created and was executive producer of. One of the episodes was on Robert Downey Jr. Now, the Robert Downey Jr. that we know nowadays, honored thespian, just won an Academy Award for Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But when we did the True Hollywood Story on him, this was the story. When he was a young guy in his 20s, he got so hammered that he went to a home and went inside the home that he thought was his, got into a bed. Unfortunately, it was He went to the house next door to where he was living in Malibu, and the bed he got into was a 14-year-old girl's bed.
Oh, geez.
And the people came home, and they found Robert Downey Jr. at home at sleep in their daughter's bed and had him arrested, and he went to
Oh,
jail.
wow.
And his backstory was that the Downey always talked about how his father had given him, Robert, drugs when he was a preteen, a young kid, and it attributed to his sort of lost 20s, and then he straightened his life out.
Speaking of Florida, did you see the alert issued by the state of Florida yesterday? Cautioning all residents to be aware of alligators.
Oh,
And apparently the alligator count, I have no idea how they figured this out, other than a wild ass guess, but apparently the alligator count in the state of Florida is now over 1 million.
yeah. How would you like to have the guy, he could be the government official whose job it is to go count alligators?
Count alligators. Have that report on my desk by noon, Bob.
Yeah. And Bob has to go out there and go around check every pond, every swimming pool, every golf course where they seem to all turn up.
Yeah, the golf thing, that would just be terrifying.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine.
They don't have any alligators on that golf course that you hang out at, do they?
No, we have rattlesnakes, but I can deal with them.
I saw my first rattlesnake out here about a month ago, and it was terrifying. Subscribe. You know what? Michael will take you to a karaoke bar and sing Oklahoma for you. Check us out on Spotify. Send us an email at oldpeoplethisweek@gmail.com. Remember, we'll take all questions, comments, and we'll tell you everything you need to know. Check us out on our Substack at 52task.substack.com. Thank you very much. Have a great week. Talk to you later.
Take care. Adios.
All right, I'll talk to you.
You have to keep that weed whacker in. That's too funny.
I'm gonna be editing this thing for about 9 hours.
You better get one of those joints out.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.